All right, this is my 1993 Honda Acty. And today I'm going to show you how to bleed the coolant system in this sucker. All right, so I'm going to get right into it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to want to jack up the front of the truck. And the reason is because your radiator is right behind the front grille there. And all of your coolant lines run underneath the vehicle. There's two main ones there. And they feed in right down here to your thermostat housing. You got a probably about an 1.5 inch hose, and then maybe about a 3/4 inch hose feeding into the engine there. And on top of the motor here, we're going to have two bleed screws. One right there and one right here. Both of them being 12 millimeters. Now, underneath here, we also have two bleed screws under the tire, where the tire would normally sit, tire rack. Those are going to be right there. You can see one's going to be on that hose or that metal line, and one on that metal line. Granted, these lines usually get really rusty, so if you try this bleeding process and doesn't fix it, there's a good chance that you might also have a pinhole in those two lines. The next thing I like to do is go underneath here. You can see your radiator fan. There's a little plug at the bottom. You're going to want to unplug that. Next thing you're going to have to do is access your radiator. So the cap of the radiator sits underneath. You'll have like a tray like this. Anyways, you'll pull that off, and then you'll find a cover that looks like this with a wing nut. Wing nut sits right there. Unscrew that. Boom, you have access to your radiator cap. Okay, the next thing that you're going to need is this non-spillable funnel thing. You can get them on Amazon for like 15 bucks. Granted, mine's a little dirty right now, but it's just stained. You have to get the right extensions. What I'd use is the 45, and then the little 4-inch or 5-inch adapter there, and that seems to work out good. Now, if you have a lot of fluid in here, when this fills up, you know, sometimes you can put like a jack stand under here, and it'll hold that front end up. But as you can see, we got the thing lifted up in the air, and that should be just perfect. All right, so the next thing you're going to want to do is install, well, yours is probably already installed, but mine had a crack in it, so I was fixing that. Install your reservoir, which sits right here and just slides into there. And to get it out, all you have to do is essentially just push this up, and it'll come out. But you want to fill this to the middle of the min and max sign, so basically fill this halfway. With that installed, you're going to want to fill up your funnel until the water no longer goes into the radiator. I've found that, obviously this is your temperature gauge there. Ideally, we want to be just under half. And sometimes when the system's a little low in coolant, will happen is it'll go to half. But then if you're doing anything, I guess you could say strenuous on the vehicle, like going up a hill, sometimes it'll go a little over. And then, you know, you might give it some gas and it'll go right back down, and it just jumps around. That is generally because you just don't have enough fluid in the radiator. Sometimes you can get away with just basically doing this and just filling that up, capping it, and then, you know, opening the bleed screws once or twice, see if there's any air comes out. But most of the time you can just do that, and it's just a little low. And don't mind all the other junk in here. Currently it's getting a full turbo setup. Maybe I'll show you a little bit there, but it's got a little VZ21 style turbocharger on it. So this is my little boost gauge, sorry, my air fuel ratio gauge. I have my boost gauge there. I still got to mount that. But anyways, now what we're going to do with that, the funnel filled, the reservoir halfway filled, we're going to start the truck, turn it on, and let it idle. But she's fired up now. What I'm going to do is go over here, have it on full heat, and then I turn it on max. And if you have AC, you can turn it on, puts a little load on the motor to warm it up a little faster. But you know, either way, just get the truck idling super high. Some other things you might be able to do is just move your idle screw to increase your idle maybe to about 3,000 RPM, and it'll sit here, and it'll take a while, but eventually your temperature gauge will come up. What we're looking for is to obviously eventually feel heat in the vents, but also have this be halfway up to the center. What that tells us is that the thermostat is open, and then we can start the whole bleeding process. All right, so far we have some bubbles popping out here and there, and that stuff's just usually from the radiator getting filled. But just know that this process takes quite a while, so don't expect that, you know, if you don't see bubbles for like 2 minutes that you're done. You're not. there's still usually some stuff left in the system as we have to, squeeze hoses, and sometimes I found even heat, you have to turn it on and off and let it sit for a day, come out and do it the next day, just to really make sure you get them all. But it's just a good sign. All right, as we're waiting for it to warm up still, we'll kind of go over this a little bit. So underneath the radiator, let's see if I can get it. There it is. You'll see this line right here. So that's your main coolant line. And generally what we're going to want to do here is just give this a few light squeezes. If you squeeze this too hard, you'll have coolant shoot out of your funnel. So you just want to do that lightly, and you'll feel if there's air in it. Mine doesn't feel like there's air in it. So we're doing good. And so far we're slowing down the bubbles, which is great. Eventually, you'll want to go under here to where the two lines are. You'll see one fat one, and then right behind it is the little one. Just want to give these a squeeze too. So like right now, when I push my fingers together, I can feel a little water in between them. And you're gonna want to feel for them to heat up. So the little one will probably heat up first. And then when that thermostat opens, the big one will then heat up. So you just want to make sure that those are both getting warm. If they're not getting warm, that means there's air trapped in the system, and you need to bleed the two screws on top of those metal lines that I showed you earlier, which those you literally just take off until fluid keeps coming out, and you just close them off. Pretty simple. All right, just want to show that coolant is starting to get a little warm, going past cool. So again, we're going to wait till it gets to halfway. Okay, so now we can still feel these. Now both of them are getting about equally as warm, which tells me the thermostat is opening up, and the temp gauge can confirm that, but we're still not quite there. I'm still getting a few little bubbles out. Okay, now that we're up to temperature, make sure you have fluid in there. You're gonna wanna come back here. I just use a socket with a 12 on it, and I'm gonna crack this open. And you'll see that bleeder, nothing's really happening. If I open it up the whole way, now we got it coolant flowing out. We'll close that up, open this one. Flowing out, no bubbles. Now we'll close them back up. I didn't snug them, I didn't tighten them, I just snugged them up. And we'll let it get warm again and see if we get any more air out. We'll check here. So now my fluid's a little bit lower, and I saw a bubble there just a second ago. And there's another, so we're just gonna keep filling that up and keep doing this. Okay, while I was off camera there, I tried bleeding this again, because again, you're just gonna wanna keep doing this. I opened up this one, and it didn't wanna do anything for me. And sometimes that will happen. And what you have to do, open them up at the same time, and that'll help them kind of flow, a little bit more evenly. Because this process of pain in the butt, you don't want to have to redo it a couple times. And again, still got fluid in there. A little dirty, probably because I need a flush and this truck's gross, but it is what it is. Okay, once you've done this process quite a few times, you'll open your bleeder up, and it'll be perfectly clear like that with no bubbles. Check both of them. That one looks good. What I'll do is I'll snug these up so they're nice and tight. Check my level, looks good. Then what I'll do is I will drop the truck. That was a little fast, but whatever. We'll come back here. And see, we're getting some bubbles there, which tells me that there was some air trapped again. And then what I like to do is keep doing the same process, maybe bleed it, open those valves another 2 or 3 times and make sure that we don't get any more bubbles both here or back there. Again, this is a little low in fluid, so I'm going to fill this back up and keep letting it sit till all those bubbles go away. Remember, the end goal here is to both have our temperature gauge only go halfway up, a little under half, and have nice hot heat. I've had this door open the entire time, and it's on recirculate within the vehicle, and this is still nice and hot. So that's how I know it's working good. Just got to get those bubbles out. All right, after we get bubbles out of both, what I like to do is I like to take the truck for a spin, come back, let it cool down completely, and then do this process twice. I found that to be helpful. You don't have to do that. That's what I tend to do. Generally, if you have no bubbles in here, no bubbles in there, and it seems to do good on both the temp gauge and your heat at the vent, then you're probably good. Once you have your truck all buttoned up, don't forget to plug in that radiator fan, because you'll be back the next day rebleeding the whole system after it all expels all the fluid. So make sure you just plug that radiator fan back in, and then you're going to want to hook up all that, put your cap back on, make sure it's tight, and good to go.